So to give everybody a summary, first of all, I think it's important that we sit there and tell everybody and tell the family that our hearts and prayers are with the Ivancic family. What they've had to endure the last couple of days is unimaginable. So today, we continue to work with our law enforcement partners in Ohio and Tarpon Springs State Attorney's Office. But the reason for our press conference today is to let everybody know that Jamie Ivancic, her remains have been recovered from 10930 Norwood Ave in Port Richey, and a positive identification and next of kin have been notified. At this point, we're working with the medical examiner's office. The remains are with the medical examiner's office at this point. The preliminary investigation indicates that the cause of death is violent blunt force trauma, which resulted in her death. Shelby Svensson is currently in custody up in Ohio. It is our intention to charge him with homicide. At this point, we continue to work with the state attorney's office to identify what those specific charges are going to be and any secondary charges that may be with that. So to recap, what happened that led us up here to today is that back on January 4th at 2:24 a.m., the Tarpon Springs Police Department was conducting their investigation into a homicide that occurred in their jurisdiction. They contacted the Pasco Sheriff's Office, and they indicated to us that their investigation had information that there may be a body at 10930 Norwood Ave buried in the rear of the residence. So at that point in time, patrol deputies from the Sheriff's Office responded out to the residence in Port Richey, secured the scene. We notified the Major Crime Section of the Sheriff's Office. They responded out, and as light came in Pasco County here, so we had our cadaver dogs. We contacted the anthropologists at USF. They responded to the scene, and we started a systematic excavation of the back of the residence on Norwood Ave. We contacted the property owners to get some more background information. We continued to coordinate with the detectives up at the Tarpon Springs Police Department, and at that point we did some neighborhood interviews to try to see if we could get some more information about the residents at that location. So what happened at that point was, over the course of the next couple of days, we worked on excavating various areas of the back of that residence. And then last evening, into yesterday afternoon and into this morning, we were able to positively identify the remains as being Jamie's. And at this point, we're looking to the state attorney's office, and we'll coordinate with them pending the return of our suspect, who's up in Ohio, as I mentioned, and at that point in time, justice will take its course.
Colonel, do you have an approximate time or a time frame in which he might have been killed?
At this point, the investigation indicates it may be as long as a year ago. And so at this point, we continue to, there's still an awful lot of work to do in the investigation. So we're going to be backtracking what happened in that interim. And at this point, it looks like it could have been that far back.
The family, I believe, was trying to get in touch with her or locate her. How did do you have any idea how he was able to convince them that she was still alive?
So that's all part of the investigation, but at this point it would appear that through, he was able to just trick them into thinking that she was unavailable, she was somewhere else, and she was unavailable for a phone call. And so that kind of progressed over that period of time from the last time that she was seen to what happened down in Tarpon Springs.
Do you know if the couple's children were in the home when she was killed?
So we don't know that. That's all still part of the investigation. The most important thing at this point is that we know that they're safe.
But nobody ever called from the family to report her missing, or that before Tarpon Springs Police contacted you January 4, there was no incident report in Pasco County saying that you had a missing person or anything of that nature?
No, there's been no contact. Even going back a couple of years at that residence, the only thing that they had was, prior to our arrival there on the 4th, was there was a suspicious person or somebody running through the backyard. Other than that, there was nothing.
Did anybody indicate why this happened at this point?
So this is all still part of the investigation. And what we're going to have to do is try to backtrack what some of the rationale or the incentive to do this, but at this point we just don't know.
Has Mr. Svensson or Nealy admitted to killing his wife?
That was, so part of the initial information as conveyed to us was that he was cooperative up there. So to what extent, that was Tarpon Springs' investigation. So he indicated to us, or to them, and they conveyed it to us, that he had.
So he did acknowledge that he committed this murder of his wife?
In Pasco County?
Yes, sir.
He did convey that, yes.
When
Do
did
you
he have
believe she
access
was
to
murdered
that?
at that scene?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe she was murdered at that scene?
At this point, all indicators are that she was.
When was the last time he had access to that scene?
Not sure. So the investigation up to this point indicates that he vacated, or they vacated the residence, he and his kids, probably close to a year ago. And he's been in various places in the area and elsewhere, so he has not been at that residence since then.
Any idea for a motive?
We don't know.
Do we know if the other relatives that he killed in Tarpon Springs, if they were pressing about what happened to Jamie and maybe leading to their deaths also?
That would be speculation. The Tarpon Springs Police Department would be a better entity to ask them. So we've been focused on the excavation and trying to find the remains of Jamie the last several days.
Have the kids been interviewed?
I don't believe so. They're very young.
Her family told us that she had threatened to leave with the children around when she was killed. Can you confirm that at all?
So I don't know what they said specifically, but the investigation at this point indicates that she had conveyed to some family members about a year ago that she was planning on leaving.
Is there anything in particular that's, it's alarming to, I guess of course it's alarming, to have somebody missing for potentially that long of a time. And I guess sort of reinforces the importance of welfare checks, and that sounds like that's what initially caused what happened in Tarpon Springs to be uncovered. Is that a message that you have for the community?
Well, sometimes during the course of people's lives, they get a little bit disconnected, and so there may be separations from time to time. I think this is a situation where you had somebody who just engaged in just horrific criminal activity, and I don't know that the degree of contact that you have with your family could ever mitigate against that.
When you say he was tricking them, does that mean he was masquerading as Jamie via her phone?
That's possible. That's still part of the investigation, but for a period of time, a significant period of time, there was no direct communication between her family members and her. So he was making statements to the family that she was unavailable, and then perhaps he was communicating through different mechanisms to pose as her. That's part of the investigation at this point to confirm whether that did or did not occur.
Do you know when he or the couple got to Florida?
I don't know that for sure.
Any more questions?
What's next? What about extradition?
Well, so that's a process that the Tarpon Springs Police Department will probably be working from their end, and then when he returns back to Florida, we'll coordinate with the state attorney's office and go about the process of getting warrants for whatever charges they deem appropriate.
She wasn't pregnant, was she?
I've not heard that information.
The kids are in Ohio, right?
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.